currently talking about their top stories on their website. Like I always say, I like to see what people are doing on the left, what's going on the far left side, especially MSNBC. They're honest about who they are and not pretending to be somebody they're not, which I always appreciate. Their top stories are Trump call for Putin help, both mind-boggling and completely unsurprising. And Alex Jones, Connecticut judge holds Alex Jones in contempt after failure to show for depositions. So, if your main news source is MSNBC, you're already talking only about Trump, as if that's the only thing in the world going on, which is totally insane. And why it's a problem, it doesn't matter who you are, of picking one source of information, one source of content, one personality to listen to, one news agency to listen to. I only watch Fox. I only watch MSNBC. It's important to see what's going on everywhere in the world. Every news site, every news channel, every YouTube personality, content creator, whatever you have to say. It's important to judge their information to see who's more correct, who's more honest, who's more lopsided, who is only talking about this issue and that only. Because, like my site, I try to be as fair and balanced as I possibly can. I like to use all website sources such as BBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Breitbart News, Daily Wire. I'll look at the Young Turks. I'll look at Trevor Noah. I'll look at even the freaking View. And so it's important to have more than one source because, and here's a prime example of why that's important, is that if you only were to use one source such as MSNBC right here, all you would think was going on in the world is Trump and Alex Jones. As if there's not a war going on, there's not inflation going on, there's not more COVID talk being talked about. Will Smith didn't just slap a celebrity in the face over a stupid old G.I. Jane joke, which, good God, find some better material. I'm almost okay with the slap because of how bad the G.I. Jane joke was. But this is why it's important to choose more than one source, because then you only get one side of the coin anyways. And then you might not be like what's going on right this second, which is the Florida bill, which is don't talk about sexuality towards kids in kindergarten to third grade. Kindergarten to third grade, which is not that crazy of an idea. Kindergarten to third grade, don't talk about sexuality. Just talk about reading, writing, and arithmetic. Too much homework makes me sick. Bringing back the old school. But this is all they can talk about. So, like Hollywood, tonight we're having a straight night. And we're just going to get down to the straight facts. God, that was stupid. I'm going to hit myself for that later. But let's go down some of the silliness of what's going down in the news regarding this topic, because it's important to talk about, as they are pushing a false narrative about it being a don't say gay bill. Again, I talked about this bill 2-3 months ago before it was even being talked about, because it was just getting on the radar and people were just starting to make noise about this idea of this insane right-wing conservative governor that's going to not allow my LGBTQ child to be able to be free in school, which it has nothing to do with the bill whatsoever. It's that your teachers should be held accountable and teach the children subjects in which they're being told to teach. So if you go into a class and you're supposed to learn about math, that teacher should talk about math. And if a kid says, "Mr. O'Shea, what'd you do this weekend?" I'm not going to say, "I went out with my husband," or whatever. I'm not going to talk about sexuality. You're just going, and I don't have a husband, but you just say, "I went and I did this weekend." That's all you have to say. You don't have to talk about sex. And if they ask you, "Are you married?" you can say yes and just leave it at that. This idea of that these are my children, which I have heard constantly from some of these teachers' websites and some of these teachers that are pushing back. How dare, these are my kids, so I get to teach my kids whatever I want. But it's important to hear what these celebrities are talking about as they're talking about the bill. And here's the most incredible person on the world in the Today Show, That's So Raven, talking about the bill, which is just so silly. And then we'll get to one of the worst actors of all time. Let's listen.
I'm going to say this, and this is my thing. If there's a don't say gay bill, there should be a don't.
Which there isn't. Again, this is what happens. This is why creating a truth is more important than narrative, because a narrative is based on emotion, lies, and propaganda. Whereas this, it's not called a don't say gay bill. It's not even in the bill. If you do a search function, you're not going to find don't say gay on it. But this is what they do. You know, they'll create a saying or emotion that captivates their audience to the point where they want to click and listen and hear. Let's continue to listen to this just as oh so silly clip.
I'm going to say this, and this is my thing. If there's a don't say gay bill, there should be a don't say straight bill.
Oh, burn! Did you hear that? Freaking conservatives, you just got roasted.
Because
my favorite part is when people say stuff like that and they think they are putting out like this incredible, amazing point. That's just such a gotcha moment. People on the right are going to have to stop and pause and think, maybe we were wrong. But let's keep listening.
a straight bill because it's not fair. And there are multiple kinds of humans in this world. And you are ruining the psyche, the confidence of so many young children because you are discrediting their parents, the people they love, the people that raise them, the people that teach them the manners when they walk into that schoolroom. So if you're not going to honor their family, your family shouldn't be honored either. So let's just make it even/equal, maybe.
So silly. Again, the parents want to teach this. That's the point. It's encouraged. The parents should jump on board. In fact, the parents should always be the ones teaching about sex, not some 20-year-old kid straight out with a teaching certificate degree and that doesn't have kids, that it hasn't raised kids. You should teach your own kids these things. Parents need to stop pushing teachers to be their teacher and their parent and which I've seen all my life. Again, I've been in education for a while. I have worked with kids for a while, and constantly parents have pushed them on to teachers or me to say, hey, I don't know what to do with this situation. Help me out. And I can understand that because you're busy, but you're also a parent. And so when you get to this point right now where you have teachers teaching your kids things that you don't want them to teach, whose fault is it really does it go down to? And it goes down to a lot of parents who have just allowed this stuff to progress and be pushed down for generation on generation. And again, if your kid wants to be this way and you're a parent that wants to push this way, great. But does it have to be a class? Does your kindergarten class have to include reading, writing, arithmetic, and sexuality? Absolutely not. But this is what they're pushing. And this is the hill they want to die on. It's such a weird and silly hill to die on. You know, people on the left constantly say, like, the SCOTUS being interviewed. Can you define a woman? I don't know. I'm not a biologist. It's funny that all these teachers all of a sudden are also have a psychology degree as well, because apparently they know about childhood development and what's right for them in their brains. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that maybe a kindergartner isn't ready for those kind of concepts. In fact, most people aren't even looking at the opposite sex or just sexuality in general until much later on, not especially in elementary school. Again, this isn't a crazy idea, but this is the hill they want to die on. Because everything is about sexuality for them. Everything. It's their religion. It's their pillar of faith. They have to have it. Without it, they can't be who they are. And DeSantis, there's nothing in the bill, again, that says you can't be this way or you can't talk to your kids about this. It's that your teachers don't need to have a class on sexuality or teach them about gender studies in kindergarten. And here's another one of the greatest actors of all time, creepy Ron Perlman.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis.
Sorry, and he also curses in this. I love good morning, Governor DeSantis.
Good morning, Governor DeSantis.
Ron here. I'm a big tough guy. Look at my stash.
Here.
This is me. I'm disappointed in you? I'm Ron Perlman.
Don't say gay.
Don't say gay, which isn't in the bill. We're going to take a narrative and make it fact.
Don't say.
Don't say. You don't say.
As the first two words in a sentence spoken by a political leader of...
A political leader? First sentence spoken by a political leader. It's almost like these people are actors and they're fabricating their own emotions based on a narrative or agenda that's being pushed or what they're told to say. So weird.
A state in the United States of America don't say?
Don't say?
Don't fucking say, you fucking Nazi pig.
Ah!
Say! First Amendment. Read about it.
So ironic hearing someone in Hollywood talk about First Amendment rights and censorship as if this is a censorship bill and not just a bill of, maybe a teacher shouldn't be teaching this. And then we go on to Disney, which, you know, I grew up in the generation where I would constantly hear conservatives, especially Christian conservatives, talk about like people on the left are trying to push their agenda, push their LGBTQ, their gay agenda on my kids. And I would hear that as a kid thinking, that's so dumb. I'm just enjoying my life. I'm just a silly kid. But then they're getting so emboldened right now. Well, they'll just come out and say, this is from Chris Rufo, who's the CRT guy, and according to the left is just a grifter. But, you know, he produces stuff like this. And here's Disney themselves and why people are getting rid of Disney as we speak.
It's like, I love Disney's content. I grew up watching, all of the classics. They have been a huge, informative part of my life. But at the same time, I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you hear whispers. I'd heard things like, oh, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little sus when I started.
Can we just have a moment together? Any adult that uses the word sus in a non-ironic way is sus. And for those who don't know what sus means, it means suspect. It means a little sketchy. It means a little different, a little weird, a little sketch. You're not allowed to be an adult and use the word sus and then ask to be taken seriously. I don't care who you freaking are. That's sus, bro.
Okay. So I was a little sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of Proud Family Disney TVA. The showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. And so,
excuse me, what'd you say?
My not at all secret gay agenda.
Okay, so it's not a secret.
My not at all secret gay agenda. And so I feel like I felt like it was. I mean, maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess something must have happened in the last. They're turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that momentum that I felt, that sense of, I don't have to be afraid to let's have these two characters kiss. Let's in the background, I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to
That's another part about Hollywood, Disney, and all these movies being pushed down is that they're so quick to add sexuality to where sexuality doesn't even need to be there. It just doesn't. And it's so obvious that you're pushing these characters on people that have nothing to do with the storyline. It's like what they're doing to Lord of the Rings series or Halo and stuff they're just adding people, they're adding characters that have nothing to do with the storyline because it's 2022 and we need to be more inclusive in our videos. Even though it's if you want to be more inclusive, then just write more movies as opposed to taking somebody else's ideas and then putting your agenda. It's you take their ideas and you put it through your agenda meat grinder, and then out pops out crap. And why nobody wants to go to movies anymore, and why nobody wants to watch award shows anymore, because Best Picture is such a crappy show, and you're just or movie, and you're I didn't watch that freaking crap. How does this even work? And then I watch it because I'm well, it's Best Picture. I gotta watch it, and then I just don't understand how it wins. And then you go, oh, it's because the agenda hit all the right boxes. That's why that movie won. That's why that show won. Because that's what's more important. It's more important to push your religion on people. It's more important to push your ideology, your way of life on the people, more than entertaining people. That's why when people on the right, people like myself, people who are just looking at some of this stuff, and they're going, this is a religion to these people. This is a way of life to these people. They see it as an opportunity to spread a message. It's much like the same playbook a lot of Christians play, is that you want to teach the truth. You want to teach what you deem as truth. You want to share the Bible. You want to promote it to children and all that kind of stuff. And they hate that stuff. Why? Because it goes against their religion. Their religion, they want to teach art. And that's what it boils down to. That's what this whole Disney, Florida Don't Say Gay bill, which has nothing to do with don't say gay. The left they're winning in politics. They own the corporations. The corporations are all on board of everything they're a part of. That's why they're so quick to say things like Happy Gay Pride Month in America, but then you look at their Twitter account to places like Saudi Arabia and absolutely nothing's on there. They're winning in the college institutions. That's why you have rooms for POC only students, clubs for POC only students, safety rooms as they call them, constant gender studies, just constantly pressing down their agenda, their religion onto college students. And they also obviously always had Hollywood. They've always had TV for forever. And the one area that they've been working on, they've been struggling with is kids. They've been, being very subtle in recent times, but now they're pouring it on more than ever. That's why this woman in Disney says, I'm putting my gay agenda everywhere I possibly can, having characters kiss as much as possible. Let's keep listening to this clip.
Did you see anything queer in the show? I'm proud family. But I just was like, no one would stop me and no one was trying to stop me. It's like,
no one was stopping me. No one was trying to stop me. Because why would they? This is the one area they need to do better. And so they want to keep indoctrinating kids at younger and younger ages and keep telling them what they deem is the truth, what they deem is reality, what they deem is their pillar of faith of the LGBTQ lifestyle. That is a must in order for them to be a part of the left, be a part of their ideology. And so that's why they're freaking out. That's why they're so quick to change the narrative. That's why they're so quick they'll be quicker to lie about a bill or create an entire story on the facts because they're worried that they won't win this time. And the more they can push down their agenda, all the generations, all the avenues, it's like the Cultural Revolution. It's like communists, what they do. They take care of the Hollywood. They take care of what's in front of your face. They control the news. They keep the censorship. The businesses all are on the same platform. They're all agreeing to the same narrative. They're all agreeing to what's true. They're all following their Bible. They're all following what they deem is true. And so and then now we have politicians and so now they want to go after kids. And here's DeSantis' response to the whole thing, which I think is just beautiful.
In relation to some of one of the things I saw yesterday, we signed the Parents' Rights in Education bill. It's interesting when a Disney-owned ABC would put that out on tweet. They'd say, Governor DeSantis signs bill to prohibit instruction in sexual identity and gender identity in some grades. Some grades. Why would they say some grades instead of K through 3? It's just amazing if you're trying to inform so you saw a lot of this, but then for Disney to come out and put a statement and say that the bill should have never passed and that they are going to actively work to repeal it, I think one was fundamentally dishonest, but two, I think that crossed the line. This state is governed by the interests of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of California corporate executives.
Preach. But this is what they believe they have. Corporations are at the point, for so long in the 90s and early 2000s, I would hear Bernie Sanders and people on the left talk about how big businesses are taking over and you got to stop the big businesses. And I would think, yeah, it's the free market. It's whatever. It's no longer the free market because now they're like an oligarchy. They all have compiled together. They all believe the same thing. They're all pushing the same agenda. And they're all silencing the same voices. And they're all in unison together. So it's not just a free market being the free market. I wish that was the case. I wish I could be a supporter of that. As companies, when we went down and shut down during the pandemic, they got the biggest companies got more rich than they've ever gotten, more wealthy than ever. And so companies right now feel like they have just as much power, if not more power, than people like freaking President Joe Biden. Because after all, companies like Twitter can say, you know what? I don't care if you're the president of the United freaking States. Your voice is gone. Because I am the Lord of the land. I am in charge here, not you. But here's an interesting point where DeSantis continues to go down the hole.
They do not run this state. They do not control this state. I also thought it was interesting. I talked to the Speaker of the House yesterday afternoon, and he said Disney never called him while they were putting this through the House. They didn't seem to have a problem with it when it was going through. If this was such an affront, why weren't they speaking up at the outset?
And you and I both know why. Because there wasn't an uproar. They didn't know. They're like children. So many of these corporations, so many of these Hollywood actors, so many of these politicians are just like children. They're like, tell me what to do. tell me if I need to be outraged about this right now, because I don't know how to act.
Yet they won't. And then for them to say they're going to actively work to repeal substantive protections for parents as a company that is supposedly marketing its services to parents with young children, I think they crossed the line. And, people ask me, kind of about, their posture on the bill. I said, you know what? If we would have put in the bill,
come on, here we go,
that you were not allowed to have curriculum that discussed the oppression of the Uyghurs in China,
Preach.
Disney would have endorsed that in a second.
Preach.
And that's the hypocrisy of this. And, we're going to make sure we're fighting back.
What are you talking about? Disney? They're for the good of the children as they go and film right next to Uyghur Muslim camps and thank some of the guards and the people of the land to help out in the movie Mulan. But I digress. And this is where we're at, We're at such a stage of pushing crazy propaganda on people and trying to change the narrative. And this is what happens when people don't actually read the bill. Like, I read the bill when it first came out, when it was first being talked about. And that's why I did it like 2 months ago. You can look it up. I talked about it like months ago. And I'm not trying to be like one of those podcasts to say, I was in the front. But I read about it and I thought, this is going to get picked up everywhere. And people are going to freak out about it because they want to talk about sexuality. They see it as a pillar of their faith. They see it as the bread, the body and the wine. They see it as what you need to take in order to have your sacrament, in order to be more holy. They need this literature a part of your child's life because they see it as an easy way to continue their agenda, to continue their indoctrination early on. And so if you're holding teachers accountable to actually teaching things like reading and writing, well, then they can't talk about themselves. And after all, everything in 2022 is about ourselves. Everyone needs to hear my struggles, my life, my, me, instead of you. I need to do me before I do you. Let me know your thoughts on this, guys. But this is their pillar and their hill in which they feel inclined to die on no matter what, which is really sad because it's just such an, they could just not talk about this and it could just go away, and because it's totally logical and totally okay. And you're not seeing any psychologist weigh on this because they would say exactly what I'm saying unless they're, indoctrinated or they're believers of what they deem as true and not actually logical believers. They believe it by faith. So this is where we're at. Let me know your thoughts on this. I'm curious. Again, this is not going away because people are so indoctrinated that they're believing a lie that this bill is about not saying gay. And if that was actually true, they would not die on this hill even more. But the fact that it's not true is just tells you the kind of where some of these people are at mentally, or they're just so willing to lie and in order to push their agenda and indoctrinate. Let me know your thoughts.